A teenager who says she was raped by a group of San Diego State football players during an off-campus party is talking exclusively with CBS 8.
No criminal charges have been filed in the case more than 9 months after the alleged assault. CBS 8's David Gofferton talked to the young woman who says she was only 17.
A Premier League footballer is facing serious allegations after being accused of raping a teenage girl and later paying her £300,000 to stay silent.
She remembers being thrown down face first on the bed.
In the room, I was in and out of consciousness. It's very hard to piece together the details of what was done to me, but there were several men taking turns basically assaulting me aggressively.
The case has now reached the High Court, where the victim is challenging the validity of the confidentiality agreement she was pressured into signing.
She says the assault lasted about an hour and left her covered in blood.
I stumbled out of the room after the assault and found my friend, who took me outside, and I was bawling my eyes out, and they asked me what happened, and I immediately told them I had just been raped.
This revelation has sent shockwaves through the football world, raising concerns about power abuse and the use of financial settlements to silence victims. The allegations: rape of a teenage girl. According to reports, the incident occurred when the victim was still a teenager. She alleges that she was sexually assaulted by the footballer and was later coerced into accepting a financial settlement instead of pursuing legal action. The details of the case remain largely undisclosed due to legal restrictions, but the victim has now stepped forward to challenge the agreement that prevented her from speaking out. This has ignited discussions on how powerful figures in sports often use their influence to suppress allegations. The £300,000 hush money deal. One of the most controversial aspects of this case is the £300,000 payment made to the victim in exchange for her silence. According to reports, after the alleged rape, the footballer's legal team arranged for the victim to sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, the legally binding contract that prevented her from speaking publicly about the incident or pursuing legal action. The victim now claims she was pressured into signing the NDA while in a vulnerable state without fully understanding its implications. She alleges that the agreement was designed to protect the footballer's reputation rather than provide justice for her. Critics argue that such settlements allow wealthy and powerful individuals to escape accountability by using money and legal tactics to cover up serious allegations. This case has raised serious ethical and legal concerns about the use of NDAs in sexual misconduct cases. Many believe that these agreements should not be used to silence victims, as they create a system where justice is for sale. If the High Court rules in favor of the victim and declares the NDA unenforceable, it could have a major impact on the football industry, preventing clubs and players from using hush money to avoid legal consequences in the future. High Court battle. Victim challenges NDA. The case has now reached the High Court, where the key legal question is whether the NDA is enforceable. The victim argues that she signed the agreement under duress, without proper legal guidance, and that it served only to protect the footballer's career rather than ensuring justice. If the court rules in her favor, it could set a precedent that prevents similar NDAs from being used to silence victims of sexual assault in the future. Legal experts believe this case could reshape how such allegations are handled in professional sports. Legal and public reactions. The case has triggered widespread debate, with many questioning the role of money and influence in covering up sexual misconduct. Critics argue that NDAs should never be used in cases involving serious crimes like sexual assault, as they allow perpetrators to avoid accountability. Legal experts suggest that if the NDA is ruled invalid, it could change the way sexual abuse allegations are handled in sports and other industries. Meanwhile, the football community is divided, with some demanding stronger protections for victims, while others await the court's decision before passing judgment. Growing pattern of sexual misconduct cases in football. This case is not an isolated incident. Football has been plagued by multiple sexual misconduct scandals, with several high-profile figures facing accusations in recent years. Notable cases include Benjamin Mendy, who was accused of multiple rapes but later acquitted.
Benjamin Mendy would like to thank the members of the jury for focusing on the evidence in this trial, rather than on the rumour and innuendo that have followed this case from the outset. This is the second time that Mr. Mendy has been tried and found not guilty by the jury.
And Adam Johnson, who was convicted for engaging in sexual activity with a minor.
Former England footballer Adam Johnson arrives at Bradford Crown Court, unaware that he's about to be found guilty of sexual activity with a girl aged 15. The jury found the 28-year-old guilty of a charge of sexual touching, but not guilty on a charge relating to another sexual act.
Additionally, former youth coach Barry Bennell was found guilty of sexually abusing young players over decades.
Today, the 64-year-old, who has appeared throughout the case via video link, shook his head as the guilty verdicts were returned. Some of his victims were in tears, hearing finally that the man who abused them when they were little boys has been convicted.
He has been found guilty of those charges. We stand before you today as men united in justice.
These cases highlight a disturbing pattern in football, where powerful individuals have often been able to manipulate the system to avoid accountability. The future. Will football address these issues? This case has intensified calls for major reforms in football to prevent similar incidents from happening in the future. There is growing pressure on governing bodies like the Premier League, FA, FIFA, and UEFA to implement stricter policies against sexual misconduct, ensuring that victims receive justice rather than being silenced through financial settlements. One of the key changes being demanded is a ban on non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, in sexual misconduct cases, as they are often used to protect powerful individuals rather than to serve justice. Critics argue that clubs and legal teams should not be allowed to cover up serious allegations by paying off victims. Instead, all accusations should be fully investigated with proper legal and psychological support provided to survivors. There is also a strong push for mandatory safeguarding policies, especially for young players and vulnerable individuals. Stricter background checks, training programs on abuse prevention, and anonymous reporting systems could help create a safer environment within the sport. Additionally, football clubs and organizations are being urged to take a zero-tolerance approach to sexual misconduct, ensuring that individuals found guilty of such offenses face lifetime bans from the sport. This would send a strong message that football will no longer tolerate the abuse of power and influence. Thank you guys for watching. If you want more videos like this, make sure to like the video and hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.